and welcome to the Rules of Acquisition Remix. I'm your host, Hugh Crawford, one of the co-hosts of the Rules of Acquisitions, and 1/3 of the Kickers of Elves. Today, we're going to talk about Captive Pursuit, which was our 5th episode. It originally aired on March 7th, 2016, and from the sound of the conversation that we're about to have, we recorded it sometime in 2015. All right, so without further ado, here is the Rules of Acquisition and Captive Pursuit. Get ready for some exciting Cole Meany butt talk.
Wormhole. Provisional government. Oh yeah. Davo girls. Docking pylons. Oh yeah. Roundabouts. Homoerotic spy craft. Oh yeah. It's time for the rules of acquisition. Wormhole.
Hello, and welcome to the Rules of Acquisition. As always, I'm Wade Bowen. With me is James Nolan.
Hey, guys.
And Hugh Crawford.
Hello.
And we're still talking about the greatest television series of all time. Maybe not the greatest television series of all time, but the greatest television series before The Sopranos.
Yes.
Or maybe
we're
not
talking about the greatest television series we're talking about.
Right. Maybe not before the greatest television series of 1992. Or was Next Generation still on then? Okay, well, the next. Well, anyways, it's still important. That's all.
Yes.
Sure. It's worth talking about. That's what we're here for.
People like NYPD Blue, but whatever.
Yeah, there's no asses on Deep Space Nine. I'll say that.
There isn't, unfortunately.
Or fortunately.
Yeah, fortunately. Yeah, that's true.
Well, maybe Avery Brooks's ass. Would you like to see that?
Yeah. O'Brien. I could go with some O'Brien ass.
Some Spidey Irish ass.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting off track, maybe. I was going to say ahead of ourselves, but I don't think his ass ever shows up.
No, I don't think so. I want to know is there anything I can watch that has Cole Meany's ass in it? Maybe I want to look that up. Maybe like Layer Cake or something. What's that Civil War TV show? He was Hell on Wheels.
Well, I've got IMDb up, and there's something called, there's this 90-minute film that's just called Cole Meany's Ass. So maybe that...
I think that's what you want.
To the Pirates Bay.
Yeah, that might be what you're looking for.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're talking about Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking about sexual. I don't know what.
We're talking about sex, baby.
We're talking about sex. So let's lead into our first scene on this episode.
Oh yeah. Sorry. What was the name of this episode?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. This episode was called Captive Pursuit. It aired January 31st, 1993. It is episode 5 of season 1. The description is: for the first time, an alien comes through the other side of the wormhole. He has ship trouble and seems very reluctant to accept any help. Chief O'Brien quickly finds out he has a secret. And that's it, man. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at
that's the story.
The best that they can come in season 1 for a wormhole story since the series premiere. And what do you guys think we're dealing with here? Do you think this is this a good episode right off the bat? Let's unpack what you guys think.
I like this episode. This is since the pilot. This has been my favorite episode so far.
I actually like this episode too. Yeah.
Do you differ, Hugh?
Well, let's see. I like this enough. I think Chief O'Brien doesn't get on my nerves that much. I think this is where we start to see Chief.
He was great in this episode.
How dare you? He's great.
I wouldn't say great. I think he's just fine. I think that this is where
I almost said magnificent.
Magnificent.
You know that movie with Angelina Jolie?
Maleficent. He's doing maleficent work here. No, I think he's doing like Yalman's work here. I think he did all of the things that you need to do because the show is undoubtedly about him. But he develops chemistry with the Crocodile Man.
Yes, the guy who comes through the wormhole with the secret is a Crocodile Man.
Toss.
And the secret is that he's being hunted by his own kind for some sort of game or sport or cultural rite of passage that he's supposed to be killed in this chase. And that's how he's achieved some sort of honor. Now, we've seen honor-bound aliens before, and we've seen like culture clashes before, but the Deep Space Nine crew seems a little bit upset by the fact that their first contact from the Gamma Quadrant is just basically, I don't know, like a fox in a fox hunt. They're upset about it.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I have my own thoughts. But before we even get to that, do we want to talk about that first scene?
Yes. Okay, let's...
Oh, yeah.
Before we get to the alien...
Yeah, we need to unpack that.
Okay, so last episode I was rambling on about what is Quark's business.
This is all James and I want to talk about.
Let's do it.
What is the nature of Quark's business? How much business does he have off the books and on the books and all of that stuff? And I even said I thought that they were sort of candy coating what a Quark would be like in this kind of society. And then this first scene, which is between Sisko and Jamie Lee Curtis's older sister. Look that up.
That's who plays the skeleton alien?
That's who plays the skeleton alien.
With tits?
No way.
That's Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh's daughter. The other Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh's daughter.
She didn't get her own True Lies spinoff or anything?
No, she didn't. But she spends Thanksgiving with Christopher Guest and her sister. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's weird. There's a lot of that in this show where it's this person is a friend of a friend of a friend who just, I don't know, like maybe they just, I don't know, but they get like this kind of like bit work just when they need it. Because most of her work on IMDb was just stuff her sister's in. But this was sort of the odd thing. Okay, so in this, they go like full crazy. Worf has it written into his contracts with his Dabo girls that he gets to fuck them.
Quark?
Quark does, right?
You said, well, there's no Klingons yet.
Oh, no. Quark, sorry. Quark.
Different head apparatus of makeup.
Yes, and it's more developed around the ears.
Yeah. Oh, he's a fucking pimp. Like, I don't mean that like he's cool. I mean, like, it's written into...
Yes.
He's not off contract, the shady person. He's on paper shady. It's written into his fucking ledger.
Yes. So he gets to fuck these girls, and it's written into his contract. I don't know. It's just the whole thing is played, and I think this might be one of the first times we've gotten anything where the sort of diversity issues or gender, where we see 2015 is a much different time than 1993.
Yeah.
Because they would have this scene would not be in a show nowadays.
Oh, it would be in a show. It would just get resolved.
Yeah, it would be about it wouldn't just be like Sisko. It was treated like that rascally Quark.
Yeah, Sisko's like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Hey.
Quark is systematically raping his employees.
Yeah.
But if you look at it within like fucking Star Trek ideology, it's like, oh, we'll accept your cultural differences.
Well, and I think that's what they try to hand-fistedly touch upon, because they throw the prime directive steps on everybody's dick every time it's used in these shows.
Yes.
Isn't that about right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a couple of episodes of Next Generation where it seems like they vigilantly uphold the Prime Directive against all other things. But most of the times when you have Prime Directive being shot about, it's basically going to lead by the end of the plot to someone breaking the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
Yeah, which actually happens in this very episode.
Yes, it does.
Well, and I feel that that's the difference between the Next Generation crew and the Deep Space Nine crew. Like, the Next Generation crew are the kids at the front of the class asking, for homework over the weekend. And the Deep Space Nine crew are the kids who are like worried about where the next meal's going to come from. They've got bigger fish to fry. Like, they're more pragmatic, and things are...
They live in the real world in Deep Space Nine.
Right,
yes.
right. They've got real problems.
Sisko's like, yeah, okay. I'll talk to Quark. You don't have to fuck him.
Yes. And I do appreciate later on, in just talking about this in general, that when Sisko meets the first person from the Gamma Quadrant who is essentially a slave, that they don't make that they don't bring voice to that. They let that just sit there.
Right. Oh, no. Picard would have called a conference about it. Everybody would have had to get around a table about it. They'd have to talk about it. You know what I mean?
U.S. history. And yeah. But he just says, like, that whole first scene is played off like a Quark. He's he's so rascally. And I was just like, no, this is a major issue.
Yeah, this is some dark shit right off the bat. They hit it like they drop us in the deep end of the pool on this one, don't they, guys?
Yes, and
Yeah, but you know, Ferengi fuckies, oh jeez, fucking or sex. Let me just say it. Let me be demure about it.
Yes.
It's probably just like rubbing on earlobes or something.
maybe.
Still non-consensual rubbing of earlobes.
Yeah,
It's still like deeply uncomfortable about the Dabo girl situation.
Yeah, there's probably ducks involved.
And by the way, they don't play around. It's not subtext where he was trying to be friendly with me. They actually say sexual encounters. They say that in the script, like in the show.
Yeah, it's a problem.
So it's clear that they're talking like blowjobs and stuff. It was the first off note from that sort of diversity sort of perspective that I'd really like seen hammered. And then I think they do one at the end that is really offensive to me too, but we'll get to that then.
Well, O'Brien kind of becomes after the Dabo girl thing, and after this guy comes through the Gamma Quadrant, and then
The rest of the episode is not about that at all.
At all.
it's dropped.
In fact, you have 2 endearing scenes with Quark.
Right. Oh, he's such a slimy guy that wants to fuck his employee.
Yes.
Ain't he lovable?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It's very weird. Okay, so Crocodile Man, who, by the way, the staff that came up with the crocodile outfit and the red guy, red suited helmet guys, they won an Emmy for this episode.
Wow.
Not a whole lot going on at the end of that year, huh?
No, because I have there was something about the Crocodile Man suit that was so distracting to me that it distracted me in every scene of the show. And that's that his suit is a one-piece rubber suit, even though the character has got crocodile skin and he's wearing like a jumper over it. But they made the jumper is clearly made out of the same piece of neoprene or whatever that the gator skin is.
I did not even notice that.
Okay, it bothered me in every scene. Because when you see him move, like it moves like one piece, the jumper and his skin. That was, okay, I'm the guy that's bothered by that kind of stuff, but that bothered me.
Yeah, I have actually. I was going to get into some of that at the end, but
Okay.
I know what you're saying. I know it's disconcerting
Yes.
too. There's a lot going on here that's just not good. Okay, one of the things I didn't like. Guess how long we go into this episode before Dax has a single line?
Oh, she's in this episode?
Yeah, what?
I don't remember her at all.
She has her first line 25 minutes into it.
Oh, wow.
And she is arguably, she's being so, at this point, like every episode that goes by, she's one of the most interesting characters, and she's so underutilized.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I get the feeling that they just don't know how to use everybody yet.
I know 2 episodes from now, we have a big Dax episode that I think may recalibrate that.
Right. It takes them at least 7 episodes. They don't know what they're doing for a while. They've written these episodes and they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. In fact, it occurred to me that like maybe O'Brien was, because O'Brien was a major character in last week's episode, or he was in this week's episode, that maybe they're just trying to like, you remember him? He was the transporter guy in Next Generation.
Right. There's a lot of like, oh, we've got this Next Generation guy.
Yes. So they're throwing him a lot of screen time early on.
Yeah. And that kind of, I guess that's kind of one of the things that bugs me about, like, I feel like I'm getting like leftovers, from a better meal whenever they do that, instead of, why don't you just try to give me something new and different? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're so like half committed to this first season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I mean the scripts up till this point have been pretty poor compared to what you were getting on Next Generation. Just like the dialogue, the writer's room was clearly a worse collection of writers.
Right.
So the scripts weren't punchy. And I thought that this episode was the first time that I actually thought that there were like jokes that weren't jokey, that like O'Brien was like, he was making, O'Brien was a smartass. O'Brien had a character beyond just what serviced the script.
Right.
Like they wrote, like they said, like, I don't know if it was Colmini. It was like, I've got to develop this fast kinship with this crocodile man. So I have to like sort of force these scenes to where, you know, like a bond is created, like, two guys shooting the shit or joshing around. But I think it was in the screenplay too. I mean, it seems it was probably in the script because the way he's talking about him to Cisco and stuff like that. But like the whole thing about like I can't have everyone in the Gamma Quadrant thinking I'm shitty at working on ships, or those kind of things were all kind of jokes that were
Right.
The things that a normal writer, a good writer writes in a script that bad writers don't.
Right.
Right. A little bit of depth.
Yeah, just color to the way people say things and stuff like that. So
I actually thought that this was as poorly as like Odo and, well, we talked about Quark and Dax were used.
Yes.
Like a whole third of the cast was used very poorly.
Oh yeah.
I still thought it was a pretty strong showing for Cisco. Cisco is actually like pragmatic as fuck in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's something I wrote down too. He's got his shit together. He knows how to play with the Prime Directive correctly, and he's like, all right, let it alone.
Well, and there's also that one point where they're not quite sure what is going on with the alien from the Gamma Quadrant, and he's Cisco says to O'Brien, if he's lying, find out why, and if he just get him off. He's just like, either way, take care of the problem. Like he didn't care at what point, if it's an endanger to the station, he just wants him off the ship.
I will say they waived that first contact procedure rather fast.
Yeah.
They're like, wait a minute, are you sure you want to do this? That seemed a little bit too easy for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, what is the first contact? Like they get in fancy suits, right?
They get in their best Starfleet skirts.
Yeah,
yes, the skirt, the dresses,
unisex dresses. Yeah.
They wear the dresses. Yeah, and I think we may get that with another game. I don't know. We may get that in a later episode. But yeah, I mean, like they were like, whatever this is, this guy is like, let's not do. You're right. They skirted protocol that it was like this sort of botched weird thing. Which, in the context of the whole show, I kind of like that even the first occurrence with the Gamma Quadrant was like a clusterfuck.
Yeah. That fits really well, I think, with how things are going to go for them.
Yeah, a morally ambiguous clusterfuck. And so that, it was cute. Like, I mean, it was a nice sort of preset to how the whole thing went down. But no, I mean, yeah, I like that. More than anything, it seems to me that there was such a drive in the Next Generation to Picard, like the joy of discovery, or none of that shit. And like, I like that on Deep Space Nine, they all have, we got jobs to do.
Yeah.
Like we're working, like we have political systems hang in the balance. Like all of this stuff is going on. There's not like a lot of wide-eyed wonder to the future, into the vast expanse of space. It's like nitty-gritty shit. And in that way, it's about good, complicated workplace sort of the thing that people like about shows like Veep or West Wing, where like all of these morally ambiguous or sort of complicated sort of things that has that. And I think I'm not comparing it to Veep, but like Cisco has those sort of elements that I think, that sort of pragmatic, get it done sort of.
Get her done. You about said get her done.
I almost said get her done. Yes.
All right, Larry.
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to tie it into this sort of American theory of, we're plugging holes, we're fixing problems, because I've sort of come up on this sort of overarching thing that it seems America's like in the 21st century and in the latter half of the 20th century, America's like overriding philosophy is shut up, go to work. Like that's the American philosophy of things is what, fuck you, get to work, and so I think that infects everything we talk about in politics and I think that that's like a thing in this show where they're like, we're working. It's the first time I thought of like on a show that when the hunters come in and blow off the door to Odo's prison cell,
right?
I think O'Brien's gonna have to go fix that tomorrow,
right?
Like I thought that, and I never thought that kind of shit on a Next Generation because every character's job, every character's sort of philosophy was so much loftier.
It actually helps. That thought is supplanted because we've seen O'Brien just like really bust his ass this whole season. We try to keep things working on the ship. right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like the first episode, he can't get stuff to work. The last episode was the one where the Babel episode, right? Where the replicators were fucked up, and that
the whole first act is him fixing shit.
Right, and it ends with shit breaking down and him fixing shit. So yeah, and I think that we're beginning to see a little bit of continuity, and we're sympathetic to their plights, from episode to episode.
Mm-hmm.
Did Major Kira do anything this episode? Did she have a line?
Is she in it? I don't remember her.
She irritated me a couple times, but other than that, yeah, she, because there's lots of the only way Dax got a line, the only way that Kira got a line was that Cisco would be debriefing O'Brien on his interactions with Tosk, and they would like throw in one-liners.
Yeah,
right.
So you don't trust him? Oh, I'm not saying I don't trust him. Like there's all this stuff. And so they all have little filler lines there that could have just all went to Cisco, but you have to. None of visitors showed up on set this week, so you got to give her a line or two.
She's in the credits. We're paying her for her union rate. We got to give her something.
Exactly.
Did Bashir have a scene in sickbay? I can't remember. Like I just watched this episode.
Yeah, did he?
All they did when O'Brien was walking Tosk through the ship or through the station, he just went, and this is our sick bay, and this is our Dr. Julian Bashir, and he shook like they had pleasantries.
Hello, I'm Julian Bashir.
Yeah.
Shake hands.
That was it. That was the only scene he was in.
Give me my episode rate, please.
I'm contractually obligated to be here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm in the starring section of the credits. You owe me. So
yes.
There you go.
That's what I was thinking of. Not to birdwalk on another show, but just talking about people who are like getting their rate. Janelle Maloney on The Leftovers is in like a wheelchair and catatonic of like every episode.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, and I was thinking she's making like good rate because she's in the opening credits. So she's a featured player on the show. Okay. And she has not had a line in 2 seasons. And like, I'm sure she would rather be working on better things, but that's good work if you can get it.
I think she's happy with what she's getting.
Yes. It's kind of like on Fargo with Colonel Ty from Battlestar Galactica. He's on the 2nd season of Fargo and he's just in a wheelchair. And so,
well, the thing is that with the Star Trek bit players, like you can make a whole secondary career, right? Just off the convention. Like I'm sure the guy who was in the foam head at Quark's bar. What is that alien that's just in every episode?
Morn. It's Norm backwards.
He's like Norm. It's like a play on Norm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from Cheers. Yeah,
but he never talks.
Right. I'm sure he's signing autographs for $20 a pop. Like
yes.
40 weeks out of the year.
Oh, he's getting 40. He's getting $40 a pop, I bet.
$40 a pop, like how many weekends of the year, right? Like
at a Star Trek convention, at a Deep Space Nine convention, he's getting $40. And every one, he's getting about 15. You're right.
Yeah. So like that, I mean, that you're right. And that's good work. I'm not, I'm not, I know a lot of these guys do that. I know that like all of the characters who've been casually murdered off of Game of Thrones now just do the convention circuit, and that's a good work. I ain't judging these guys.
I'd love to be killed on Game of Thrones.
I would love to be killed on Game of Thrones and get to have my own booth at conventions all across the country for $40 a signature or whatever they do. But yeah, no. So yeah, you're right. I mean, and a lot of these the foamhead guys are also other foamhead guys in other episodes.
Right.
Like both the Hunter and Tosk in this episode have done multiple Star Trek things before. Or after, or before or after.
Yeah, probably all of the above, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean...
Yeah, like same way Armin Shimmerman was like every Ferengi before Quark on Next Generation.
Yes. Okay, so what else do we have on this episode?
I do want to say, like, when they get into the hunt and then O'Brien's like, okay, I'm going to help out Tosk. And I'm going to go out. And they're like, I killed these people. They're dead, but that's what they wanted. All right. Isn't this funny? I killed these people, but they love it because this is part of their culture.
Yeah.
And then Cisco's like, all right, there you go. I get it.
Yeah, I guess they're dead. And
they never show up, and it's kind of framed as it's the most dangerous game. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, so he should be able to murder him. He's kind of a. Is he threatening though? Is would the show be better if he was more threatening?
O'Brien?
Who? Tosk or O'Brien?
Tosk.
All right. Well, let's get into that part of the show if you want to. What would you change? Let's get what would you change about this episode?
I don't know. I mean, I'm asking because I think it's. I'm not coming at it from a very specific point of view, because I think that there's something about like how kind of mumbling Tosk is, and kind of like Opie Taylor homespun sort of thing,
right?
That like I think that makes it sort of off-putting.
Yes, it is.
And maybe not off.
Is he supposed to be more sympathetic if he's more childlike?
Yeah, I think it quickly makes you bond with him. Where if he was like just a monster, and over time you see that he's playing a role and he does he's just a guy trying to do his job in the world, then you would I think that it was going for that more quicker bonding where he was kind of childlike and he was like, you guys have too much time, you got your we don't get to we're just work and we sleep for 17 minutes and we work all day and we don't have time to think about our bitchy wives, which is a reoccurring motif with O'Brien.
Yeah, that's the worst.
That's the worst. That was the problem. That was the thing in the end that offended me. But that whole sort of thing maybe sort of created sort of more of a male bonding thing.
Yeah, male bonding through shitting on women. Is that the basic?
That's
pretty.
Well, we've said this writer's room's not their best. So,
right.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it was.
All their women writers were saving up to go to Voyager.
Yes. Well, actually, but I guess in fairness, the co-writer of the screenplay, or the first writer of the screenplay, was a woman, but then Mark Pillar rewrote it, or Michael Pillar rewrote it. So that's something, but it's got some stink in it of sexism and misogyny. But
you mean like the fucking contract?
The fucking contract. And then when Cisco at the end says, if you do this again, your wife won't have to keep bitching about how much she doesn't like it here.
Right.
Which they'd already established that she has gotten over it, got a job as a teacher, and went to work and did her fucking job. She's working her ass off to educate Cisco's child.
Well,
and
I'll give Cisco some credit here. He's playing both sides. That's where he's good at just he's better at toying with the Prime Directive than any of the other captains. In a way.
I get that there was
he's
we don't know shit about Dax, but we know all of Keiko's foibles.
Yeah.
Right.
But I still say that Cisco's at the end. He's I have to be an asshole, but I'm on board the whole time.
Yes, yeah. No, I know, but he said that little line, and I was you basically just called Keiko. Anyway, okay, well, let's go into this now. You basically just called Keiko a bitch. You don't have to listen to your wife's whining about not liking the station anymore.
Right.
And I'm
yeah.
Yeah,
don't bring his wife into it.
Yeah, that was one scene in episode 2, and since then she's done her job. I don't know what the deal was. That was just, I thought, rude. It was the writers were trying to write that, all of your little problems will be solved very quickly if you do this again, but that's not what you want.
Right.
But instead, they just wrote this misogynistic piece of shit about a hardworking woman who's trying to work to educate Cisco's child.
You're right. Yeah.
So, that's
Keiko should be the only hero of Deep Space Nine.
Yes. She had a career. She was an educated, high-level botanist. She got a position on the flagship of the Federation. And
her only downfall was falling for O'Brien.
Yes.
Yeah, some fucking enlisted engineer.
Enlisted mechanic, yes. And he's an engineer, but he's a mechanic.
Yeah.
Most of, Geordi was Geordi, he spends much more time on his knees and crawling under panels than Geordi ever did.
O'Brien smells like old plasma coils, and Geordi he doesn't smell like anything because he tells people what to do.
Yes. So, I mean, he's and I like that there's a fixer. I like that on the ship, but it's crazy. But back to Tosk. Was he threatening? When he does that little jump, which is maybe the first action scene since the pilot.
Oh, his little chameleon jump?
Yeah, where he jumps and attacks one of the hunters.
I think he's supposed to be scary because we can't see him. I think that's to imply that this guy is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, all his jumps feel like a baby jumping out and yelling, boo.
Yeah. He also had a noticeable pot belly.
Yeah.
So it's like, it makes me think he's probably not at the height of physical. I mean, I don't know how Tosks are built.
You don't know where their muscles and organs lie.
I don't, but it reads to my eye as like, he's like a paunchy loser who's in a bad situation. And I think that serves a part of the script, but doesn't serve the part where he's supposed to be a genetically engineered badass. Because I think you're supposed to think later on, and not to get into spoilers, but I think you're supposed to think he's a precursor of the Jim Hadar.
I hope that you're supposed to think that.
I think you're giving him too much credit.
That's where I take issue with this episode.
Oh, is it too much like the Jim Hadar?
No, it's not enough. They don't bring the first aliens back because they think they get to something better. They're just jerking around right now. Like, oh, we've got an alien, and then they land on the Jim Hadar and they forget all about these guys.
Okay, so is this the first time we start talking about? Do you think that Berman or Pillar or anyone had when this episode was being written, do you think that there was a master copy or an outline that had the name Dominion and had the outline of the Dominion on it?
No.
Okay.
No. I feel like they've got they're like half-assed in so much of the series that I don't think they're really giving themselves a chance at the overall arc of the whole series just yet.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think at this point they had planned, we're going to have an alien of the week come through the wormhole.
Yes.
And that's how we're going to play this. And then people got upset and said, this show sucks. They don't fight anybody. They don't have any big enemies. They don't go anywhere. So what the fuck? And then they're like, oh, we got to change things. And then they brought in a Jim Hadar. And then probably Ronald D. Moore started getting involved. I'd like to think because he's probably great. I want to think he's great. I love that first two seasons of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I want to say he saved
Yeah, I think, wait, what you're saying, I like what you're saying because basically it's like the writers have like a rebuttal for everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they don't, what the fuck, they don't go anywhere. And then the writers are like, no, you don't understand. They're real people with real problems. They gotta worry about fixing the doors. You know?
That's okay, but all of these things, I think episodes, you're right, and I agree with you on episodes 2 through 5 here. But the pilot was oozing with political complications from Bajor versus the Cardassians. All of the crap, the religious stuff, and the implications of Cisco and the wormhole and all of that stuff. That was a big pilot.
It was.
And I know that was probably an all hands on deck thing, and Michael Pillar was probably writing that for a year in the pitching stages, and now that they got to this. But later on, it becomes that again, where huge ideas and really complicated things are just flying all over the place. But right now, with this rubber alien steps on board and they solve it thing, why is this the second, third, fourth, fifth song on this album?
I think they got distracted by, we have to fill 22 episodes a season. There was none of this like Sopranos or Mad Men where we can do 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Cable wasn't a thing. We have to sell this to networks. We have to fit 22 episodes in a season. So we got to pad this out. And then they get into padding it out, and then there's like, we got to
jump on with Wade. What Wade is saying is that, like what I said last week, like Star Trek Deep Space Nine is a show with obligations. They have to have the green guy in the rubber suit episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're obligated.
But it's all like 5 episodes in, and it's all green guys in a rubber suit. And the show should be, and I know they get to this, and to the people who maybe are following us and watching it episode by episode new, they get into that and it gets good again. But it seems like they're just, after having like a really great mission statement and a really great blueprint for how the show should go, they just can't get their shit together on a script by script basis, where if they're going to go that way, or if they feel bogged down by a 22 episode season, you skimp on episodes 8 and 13 and 15 and 17, but you marble it with the good stuff. But it seems like this whole season was just a good idea that no one followed through with.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when I talked about in the first episode where I stopped watching it because I felt like all the stuff that I was promised in the pilot episode never came.
Yeah, and it's mind-boggling to me. And it seems like they're writing these shows in ways where when you have a standard cast of 7 actors, basically any great script is going to be a conversation between 3 people at most, with other people. So you're not going to get a lot of Bashir in each episode. But 5 episodes in, I feel like I don't know what I'm watching. I don't have a clear vision of who Dax is. I feel like I know Kira a little bit, but she's supposed to be the most interesting character on the show. Odo is supposed to be this character shrouded in all this mystery that they haven't even established yet.
Yeah.
This is a man who doesn't know who he is and has unforeseen, never seen before superpowers. And he's like a bit player.
Right.
Well, morphing.
Actually, he's such an afterthought in this. They trust O'Brien to keep tabs on him. And Odo, the shapeshifter.
Right. Well, morphing technology and effects were still such a big deal after that Michael Jackson video.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. What was the song?
Black and White, yes.
Black or White. And so all those morphing Odo shots had to cost so much money.
But I don't even need to see him change. It's not just the mystery of where he's from, which is super interesting and consumes most of the show from later on, but just the idea that he worked with Cardassians, the idea that he's of the space station and not of a people group.
Yeah.
And all of the kind of stories that you could just quickly, I felt like after the pilot was like a good to go, and after they got it approved and greenlit, and then they create a writer's room for the show, me, you, and Wade could throw out like 20 good ideas that were fertile and interesting and not seen before because it's an interesting setup. But all of these things are just aliens of the week. It's Next Generation Season 1 all over again. And I don't know. I mean, it's a Rick Berman problem. It's.
I will give it credit. It's a little bit better than Next Generation Season 1.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Boy.
But they also probably had more money, too. But no, I mean, and this is like, we're talking, I mean, I think this is a good episode.
I do, too.
I think this would be a fine episode in season 6.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more complicated, obviously. But like, I think an episode like this would be fine. But we need the good stuff. Quickly, and I don't know why they're so timid about it. And I would be interested in reading more about it, but there doesn't seem to be a lot out there of a story of why this was sort of slow to launch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they just didn't know what they were doing. Have we gotten into what we would change it? We should probably.
Go for it. Yeah. I want to hear what would you change, Wade?
Well, my whole thing, I like this episode a lot. So what I would change is everything else.
Yeah.
This is the first alien to come through the wormhole. This is the last time this alien comes up ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so if this alien is coming through the wormhole through Dominion space, the Dominion should have some, I don't want to spoil anything later, it should have some hierarchy or reference. Even if they don't know what's going on now, later they should at least reference.
I think that if we think that there is not a piece of paper at this time that has the word Dominion or anything like that, or has the Jem'Hadar or the Vorta or any of that stuff established, then they would want to go back later on. They would have loved to have went back, and if they could go back and do it over again, they would make this character a Jem'Hadar character.
Probably, yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because he kind of even looks like a Jem'Hadar.
He does, yeah.
He's green. He's not gray. He's green. And
Well, his appearance actually goes into what I actually wanted to change about this episode. I hated the fact that whenever you see the quote unquote like smart Gamma Quadrant alien, he's got hair.
Yes.
yeah,
He's a lizard with human hair, and that's like supposed to signify that he's different.
He's smarter. Yeah.
He's smarter, so of course he's got human hair. And that's the thing I hated the most. I just hated that about this episode. I know that's stupid and nitpicky.
If they just called out later on that the Jem'Hadar are based on this race that were created for this other thing, because it would make so much sense if they're like sister species or something.
Now that's a popular fan.
But they would have had to bring it back,
right?
On Memory Alpha, that's a popular fan theory that this was like an early Founders creation that was gifted to the Hunters, which I don't think have a name other than the Hunters, right? He's Tosk, but they're not called anything.
Yeah. They're just like Ant-Man mixed with
Ant-Man suit, but Ant-Man.
Yeah, mixed with the
Cylons.
Yeah, or the Doctor Who Cybermen.
Oh yes, yes.
They're Ant-Man Cybermen.
I think that they could go back and change that. Even if they didn't know it then, you could bring back Tosks or them something and fix it later. But it doesn't fix this. I don't know what I would fix about this episode. Because I think they're doing like, this would be a really good, this would be a fine Next Generation Season 3 episode. It wouldn't be the best episode that season, but I think looking forward, I mean, this may be one of the best episodes this season outside of the pilot.
Is this the best one that we've seen so far, do you think?
Yeah.
Outside of the pilot, I think the pilot holds up pretty well.
Well, what is it even better than the one that we liked? Not Babel, but the one before that.
Past prologue?
Yeah.
Wait, we didn't like the one about Odo. We liked the one about...
Past Prologue is the third one. A Man Alone is the second one that we didn't like. That's about Odo.
We liked Past Prologue where Kira had to make a decision on whether she was going to help the terrorists.
Right.
Yeah. No, that was a fine episode. I like this more than that.
I definitely like this more than that.
If nothing else, if you're going to give me like a bland episode, I know you don't feel this way, Hugh, but give me Cole Meany over Nana Visitor any day. But
I know I'm alone with that. I think she's more interesting.
I like Nana okay. I like Cole Meany a lot more.
Yeah, and so I feel like when you're watching scenes with him, you're watching like scenes like, okay, this guy's an actor. And I hope I'm not being affected by the fact that he does have a post Deep Space Nine career. He's good and he's still working. He's getting good roles still in 2 countries. So that's nice. He's kind of like a go-to Irishman in a lot of, like, if you need an Irish villain, you go to him. And I feel like he's one of those workers of like character-driven or character parts in good movies or action movies or whatever. And so I hope I'm not being infected by just the externality that he's had a successful acting career. And not a visitor,
You're back in a real winner. From the outset.
He's had the best post Deep Space Nine career, and I guess probably Alexander Siddig is second. But he gets to play all of the juicy terrorist roles after, over the last 10, 15 years.
Right. And there's more call for those than Irishmen, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. I'm backing a winner. Not a visitor. Clearly has not had a good career after this. But I still think like he knows how to act. I think Armin Shimmerman, in Quark scenes, he knows how to act. So you feel like you're in good hands in a scene. But like there's scenes like last week's episode, there was a scene between Dax and Kira, and it was like a little bit choppy to me. And your mind starts to wander away from the show just because there's not a lot of juiciness to the scenes. And so I like it that way. What I would change about it, I don't really know. I'm really struggling with it. I mean, I think it's a fine episode filler. I would rather get into the meat of the promise of the show. Give me conflicts with Bajorans against Bajorans and Bajorans against Cardassians, and give me, all of that kind of stuff. This is just sort of a distraction episode. And so it's fine. I don't think I would change much, but I'm irritated that this is the best thing they have right now that they've given us so far, I guess is what I would say.
Right. I think we've covered this one pretty well. What do you think, guys?
Yeah. Was there anything that you would change here?
No, just the hair. That irritated me the most.
So,
Okay, then I'll-
bald people can't be smart.
Yeah, I would say that if you're going to have a guy in a jumper and he's going to be covered head to toe in a rubber suit, and he's going to have
Put two different.
it should be clearly two different fabrics. Because the hunters dress in fabric, like that kind of. But I feel like I'm nitpicking against, like, these guys won an Oscar, or not an Oscar. These guys won an Emmy for this shit, for this.
They did not win that.
No, I think the hunter should have come in with spectacles on, and that's how you knew that they were the smart ones.
But not hair, yes.
It's not hair. They should have been bald with spectacles.
But also, okay, so I'll give you this. It's confusing to me. Are they of the same race, or were these like genetically modified? Like, we can't hunt ourselves, so let's genetically modify or acquire some genetically modified sentient smart, being to basically reenact, the most dangerous game, which is what this. It's just the most dangerous game.
Oh, totally. But the game wants to play, as opposed to the most dangerous game. Like, what the fuck are you hunting me for? They're like, no, I need to be hunted.
Yeah,
And that's why the Prime Directive works.
Exactly, because he's like, yeah. So, I mean, all of that's fine. I was confused because they look so similar. Are they the same race, or are they the same species, but just a different race of the species, or whatever? And I would have liked that to have been more clear. Hair didn't do it for me. You're right, Hugh.
Yeah.
It was a little upsetting, isn't it, to see a lizard with such nice hair?
I did notice, though, that his face had asymmetrical scaling, which I thought was a nice touch. That wasn't like, I think like the quick and easy way to go is to give him symmetrical scaling. Tosk had it, like the hunter's face. He looked a little more dignified. I'll give him that. Maybe the hair helps, but anyway. Yeah, this is all right. Are we gonna find it to where it's gonna be more fun to talk about the bad episodes?
Well, we'll see, because I feel like
I don't know. Babel was pretty awful, and I felt like we struggled.
Oh my god, yeah, that was.
I haven't watched ahead, but do we have like a drought of good episodes coming up? So we'll find out.
Well, okay, we have a Q. The next episode's a Q episode.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, there's a lot to unpack there.
And it involves a character that I don't remember from Next Generation. Was there some?
I do.
There was a girl that like
Picard had a one night stand,
and then she left him for Q. Oh, she was like, was she like an Indiana Jones type gem hunter? It was like Picard's Karen Allen from Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
Right.
I remember her.
Exactly.
I liked her in Next Generation.
Yeah. Okay. So she's in this.
So that's something that we'll get to look forward to next week.
Right, I remember now.
And then after.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah, and then after that episode, we have an episode where Dax's former body could have potentially killed a man, a husband.
Oh, finally, we get into some interesting Dax shit.
Yeah, could have potentially killed the husband of a woman he was having an affair with.
Okay.
And the whole question is is Dax, Jadzia Dax, legally liable for things that Curzon Dax
Well,
did?
that sounds very fascinating. Anybody that thinks that is as fascinating as we do or do not, listen in later on to figure out how boring or exciting we think it might be. I think that might be a good place to end the episode.
That's a great place to end.
That's what we have to look forward to. Help us get through it, please. Thanks for listening.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
The end.
I clapped.
Please follow us on Twitter at AcquisitionPod.
No Kickers Podcasts actually.
And on Tumblr at the Rules of Acquisition Podcast.tumblr.com. Send us an email at rulesofacquisitionpodcast@gmail.com. You can turn this off now.
Okay, there we are. The end of the episode. I thought that was a pretty good episode. I think that I didn't like that particular episode. As usual, Wade, I think, liked it the most. And then James was somewhere in the middle. And then I think I liked it the least. What's interesting to me is that this seems to be an emerging pattern. I don't know if I'm really bad at liking things or if Wade is really good at liking things. Wade has me second guessing as to whether or not I'm very good at liking things, especially here lately with our latest podcasting endeavor, the second season of Hashish and Superiority. I feel like I'm sort of failing in that department. But some of you might have noticed how weird Wade's audio sounds in this. I asked him about this, and he was talking about some technical stuff that I didn't understand, but it did jog my memory, and you might have picked up on it earlier in the episode when you hear some stray voices. Wade had a lot of roommates for a lot of years living in New York City. But at this period of our recording, there were several times where it sounded like he was recording in the middle of a bar because, his apartment would be quiet, nobody would be there, and then everybody, his roommates would just show up all at once. And James used to joke that it sounded like he was recording a podcast in the middle of Cheers. Later, Wade would fashion a soundproof box that he would put over his head when he recorded. And from what I understand, he still has that today, even though he doesn't have as many roommates. He has a family. I guess that's sort of like roommates. Boy, James is still on the Nana visitor hate kick on this episode, which surprised me because she wasn't in it very much at all. But here we have James going off on her acting ability. We have a lot of Cole Meany, so he unfairly compares her post-Trek career to his post. I thought that was bad form. It's good to see that James sort of changes his tune over time on Nana Visitor and Major Kira both. One thing this episode got me thinking about was there was a lot of back and forth as to whether or not the Dominion was an idea for the writers when we recorded this. So it got me wondering, and sure enough, we were right that they had not even begun to conceive of the Dominion at the time that they made this episode. And I went and looked up the origins of the conception of the idea of the Dominion, and there's a lot on Memory Alpha on that. But ironically, Wikipedia has the most succinct description on the origin or the conception of the Dominion, and I think I'll read that now. In 2002, Deep Space Nine producer Ira Steven Behr stated that unlike some plots, which originated from a single small idea, the creation of the Dominion villain and story arc was, quote, very much thought out, end quote. Behr said that the earliest mention of the Dominion was purposely planted in the comic Season 2 Ferengi episode, Rules of Acquisition, to leave the audience with an impression of, quote, how important could it be, end quote. It was decided that the Gamma Quadrant would need an ambiance that would distinguish it from the Alpha Quadrant. The producers wanted to portray the region as something other than uncharted space and avoid imitating the adventures of Star Trek The Next Generation, with another series of plots focusing primarily on the themes of exploration. After 18 months of Deep Space Nine exposition, the producers decided to characterize the Dominion as anti-Federation. Writer and script editor Robert Hewitt Wolf has explained that this move was also to distinguish Deep Space Nine from its successor series, Star Trek Voyager, which stars a lost Federation ship traversing the chaotic and divided Delta Quadrant and Milky Way. So, basically, they needed a big bad for the series, and they came to that in Season 2 and decided Ira Steven Behr, in true Ira Steven Behr fashion, decides to do it in a Ferengi Shenanigans episode. You know, those that we love so much. So yeah, we were right about that. They had no idea that the Dominion was even going to be a thing, and that the lizard person in this was pretty much completely unrelated. All right. Well, that's all I have for you this week. Thanks again for revisiting this old episode with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back and listen to another episode of the Rules of Acquisition Remix. One to be a out.
You are still listening. We believe in you. We know you are better than this.